What's up everybody, Dave here, VTT Performance. Thanks again for joining me. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to properly set up your air ride suspension. Now, air ride sometimes gets a bad rap because it rides too stiff or it's too low, and it doesn't have to be that way. That's usually down to installer error or when people hack the install. If you install it correctly, it's gonna ride like some of the best suspension out there. Now, I'm gonna show you how to set up these struts so it handles well. Now, it may come as no surprise that it actually tells you in the manual how to set up your air ride. Can be a little bit confusing though, so I want to draw your attention to two main things. First one right here, suggested driving air pressure, 45 to 55 psi. That's specifically for this setup, which is for Mark 7 GTI, TTRS, everything that shares that same platform, Audi A3, S3, that type of thing. And then on the other manual, for the controller, it's got this right here, formula for calculating ride height, and it talks about stroke. Now that can be a little bit confusing. I'm going to show you what that looks like in real life. So ME, max extension, that's when the bag is fully extended and the strut at its longest, not in the vehicle. That's what this would look like. Max compression, that's when the strut is fully compressed with the weight of the vehicle on the strut. Now, I can't do that without this in the vehicle, but Airlift tell you that this specific strut has about 5 inches of travel. Now, the reason why mid-stroke is so important is because when you're driving down the road, you need the tire to actually move up into the wheel well to absorb bumps and then actually to extend away from the vehicle after that rebound. So if you're not at mid-stroke, that's when it's going to start to bounce around and top out the strut. In addition to that, you need your mid-stroke to be at this 45 to 55 psi in order for the vehicle to ride and handle as it's supposed to. So I'm going to go over to the vehicle and I'm going to show you how to actually work that out. So the first thing you want to do is actually measure the ride height of the vehicle on its stock suspension, which this is currently about 27.25 inches fender to ground measurement. Now I want the new ride height. I actually want the new ride height to be about 26.5 inches. So we're going to lower this vehicle about 3/4 of an inch. Now another way for us to measure this is actually from the hub to the fender, and this is going to give us a better measurement to work with when the vehicle's on the lift, because when the vehicle's on the lift you can't work out that fender to ground measurement. You need a different reference point. So if I actually go from the middle of the hub to the fender, it's currently about 14.75. So just a quick summary of all that. The max extension of the bag is going to be about 5 inches. Max compression, we're going to call that 0. So mid-stroke of the bag at ride height is going to be about 2.5 inches at 45 to 55 psi. Now the vehicle currently sits at 27.25 inches fender to ground. I want the new ride height to be about an inch lower, 26.25 inches fender to ground. Or an easier way to measure that is from the hub to the fender, which is going to be 13 3/4 inches. Now the nice thing about the Airlift Performance strut is the strut body itself is threaded, so you can change the ride height of the vehicle independently of the amount of air pressure you run in the bag. So if I know my new ride height is going to be 13 3/4 inches fender to hub, that measurement needs to be at when the bag is at its mid-stroke, because that's my ride height. So I can take this fender to hub measurement, I can add 2.5 inches. That's going to give me 16.25 inches from fender to hub when the suspension is at full droop on a lift. So what you're going to do is install the bag into the vehicle, and you're going to take this measurement. Now with the threaded body on the strut, you need to make this longer or shorter until you get to this measurement. Now what that's going to give you is when the vehicle is back on the ground and you put 45 to 55 psi into the bag, that's going to give me the ride height I want, 26.25 inches fender to ground, and it's going to mean that the strut itself is in its mid-stroke, so it's going to handle the best. Now on the rear of this specific application, it's a little bit different. If the rear of your vehicle has the same bag over strut as the fronts, then you're going to set the rear up exactly the same as the fronts. On the rear of this application, the bag and the strut is separate. And so again, look in the manual, that suggested ride height, 45 to 80 psi. You have a lot more range there, so you can adjust the ride height simply by adjusting the amount of air pressure in the bag itself. Take a look at the strut though. The rear strut has that same threaded body. Now the only thing that's going to affect is where the vehicle sits when it's fully aired out. You make the strut longer. When it's aired out, it's not as low. If you want it to sit lower when it's aired out, make the strut shorter. But again, you can use the same idea of a hub to fender measurement to see exactly where you want the vehicle to sit when it's fully aired out. Okay folks, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for watching. I know that was a lot of information, so if you've got any questions, leave me a comment below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.